收看今天文茜的世界财经周报。让我们先来看一个重大的讯息：全世界正有一个新的疫苗即将问世，这个疫苗叫做 Novavax。Novavax 疫苗虽然还没有正式的问世，澳洲跟日本都已经事先超前部署预定了。澳洲的人口和台湾差不多，澳洲大概帮他的人民以成年人来计算，或是12岁以上的来计算，一个人几乎可以打4剂的疫苗。它是一个属于超量采购疫苗的国家。在关于 Novavax 的部分呢，它总共订了5100万剂，而日本武田制药更是已经和 Novavax 谈商好，不只是采购，而且将为 Novavax 代工。Novavax 这个疫苗的特征是什么？叫做极蛋白。如果大家最近注意到台湾关于本土疫苗高端技术，有一个说法说，美国的国家卫生研究院把他们最优先的一些技术交给了台湾，那个技术就叫做蛋白质的突变，就叫做极蛋白。事实上Novavax 用的就是极蛋白的技术，这并不是美国国家卫生研究院多么了不起的一项专利，因为同样是极蛋白，它里头所含量的科学是可以差异很大的。而 Novavax 被看好的一项很重要的一个原因是，它很可能目前为止针对英国变种病毒的有效率可以达到89%，因为它刚开始作为一个后面的疫苗。它的特征是什么？就是针对变种病毒。当时第一个针对的就是英国变种病毒和南非变种病毒，而它很可能会在今年6月底或是7月的时候送交 FDA。它已经大致完成了它第3期将近几万多人的临床实验，希望 FDA 紧急授权。
COVID-19 brought China and then Europe to a standstill. As the novel coronavirus spread to the US and across the globe, it wasn't long before governments were betting billions of dollars on developing vaccines to fight the pandemic. A new vaccine market was about to emerge, where demand was unlimited, and governments would do everything in their power to secure doses.
富比士杂志说，我们正被迫进行一场全球性的疫苗接种运动。他们援引彭博社的疫苗追踪器分析，强调当下已经接种的疫苗数量原本足以让全球11.2%的人口达成疫苗的完整接种，如今却因为数款上市疫苗均处于紧急核准使用的状态，施打几乎都集中在欧美等富裕国家。
A new COVID-19 jab has entered the global vaccine race. After gathering data from phase 3 trials in Britain, US vaccine maker Novavax has announced the good news.
这是一款迄今全球知名度不高，却被市场寄予厚望的新冠疫苗，也是美国与印度近期联手开发疫苗上最亮眼的果实。不仅年初在英国1.5万人的3期临床试验，针对原始病毒呈现出高达96%超越 BNT 及莫德纳疫苗的超高保护力。负责执行的印度血清研究所执行长还推文表示，该疫苗最大的优势在于特别针对南非及英国变种毒株进行测试，整体有效率为89%。如果能顺利在今年9月成功上市，将是该公司继牛津 AZ 疫苗之后第2款成功与西方先进国家联手产制的新冠疫苗。
I think both those numbers are dramatic demonstrations of the ability of our vaccine to develop a very potent immune response against a like strain and also against drifted strain.
根据华盛顿邮报报道，不同于当前全球主要流通的几大疫苗，诺瓦瓦克斯采用的是一种截然不同的技术。他们是透过昆虫细胞产生冠状病毒特殊的己蛋白，然后将其注入患者体内，以启动他们的免疫系统。这种利用蛋白质次单元制作的重组蛋白疫苗，过去广泛用于对付人类乳突病毒、肝炎及流感等病毒，是一种久经考验的疫苗制作方法。
So recombinant protein vaccines aren't actually that unique. We've been using them for 20 plus years. They're very, very reliable because you just make the protein, you present it to the immune system recognizes it as something that's foreign, and it generates an immune response to it. So far, we've known from prior research on SARS and MERS that if you want to protect against a coronavirus infection, you need an immune response that targets the spike glycoprotein of the virus. It's what's responsible for binding to host cells, our cells, and getting into our cells. And so if you have an immune response that targets the spike glycoprotein, it can literally block the direct interaction of the virus and the host, which is us.
无需使用整个病毒，该疫苗启动免疫系统的方法只需要其中一小片段，也就是所谓的棘蛋白。这类重组蛋白疫苗的优点是相对容易产生，价格便宜，且蛋白质片段不足以引起疾病。但缺点在于，针对攻击感染细胞的免疫细胞，有时候不太容易辨识。这意味着它们可能触发的免疫反应，往往比其他款疫苗要微弱许多。所以在注射时必须搭配佐剂增强效果。而诺瓦瓦克斯的独家专利是一种名为基于皂苷的 Matrix M 佐剂。有学者认为，从数据上来看，其他就算同样采用重组蛋白技术的疫苗，短期内恐怕也很难并驾齐驱。
It's a much more traditional type of vaccine than the ones we've been seeing up until now. It's a protein vaccine, the same kind of vaccine we have already, for example, against hepatitis B, where the protein is injected as the vaccine.
诺瓦瓦克斯还有一个优势，在于它可以像 AZ 疫苗一样储存在普通冰箱里。比需要超低温冷链的 mRNA 疫苗更容易取得及保存。这对已经错失初始销售机会的后发者来说，眼前美国大半成年人即将完成疫苗接种，欧盟也多数把订单交给辉瑞 BNT， 诺瓦瓦克斯必须锁定更广大的新兴市场，积极拓展。且伴随着病毒变异，它不但要证明自己能有效对抗变种，最新规划还将结合流感疫苗，如此才能后发先至地彻底改变游戏规则，帮助全球人类在未来同时免除流感及新冠病毒年复一年的威胁。
Plan is to start a trial later this year of a combination vaccine. We think that's going to be a really important product, so that you get a seasonal flu and coronavirus vaccine shot every fall, and then boosted every year.
尽管诺瓦瓦克斯在美国早在2020年7月就被纳入川普政府的疫苗急速行动中，但紧急授权申请却数度延迟。最新消息，该公司已宣布将把在美国、英国及欧洲寻求紧急授权的时间从原先的6月推迟到9月底。不过，它的全球产线早已超前布局。2021年2月，加拿大在订购数百万剂诺瓦瓦克斯疫苗后，便已拍板在当地新设的厂房代工分装。4月则确定技术转让给韩国 SK 生技，扩大亚洲供应链。而日本武田制药也在政府协助下与诺瓦瓦克斯签订合作开发备忘录。一旦疫苗确定取得紧急使用许可，将在2022年初购入至少1亿5千万剂，并努力取得专利，替日本全境1.25亿人口代工生产2.5亿剂疫苗。至于它的2大主要代工厂，虽然印度血清研究所正因当地疫情焦灼而无法扩大产量，但英国的富士药厂早就被视为 AZ 疫苗以外英国最重要的抗疫武器。
At the same time as we push forwards with our program to offer a vaccination to all adults by the end of July, we're building up our own long-term UK manufacturing capabilities. I've already told you that Novavax, a potentially significant new weapon in our armory against COVID, is going to be made at Fujifilm in the northeast, and I can today announce that the Vaccine Task Force has reached an agreement with GlaxoSmithKline to finish and bottle this precious fluid also in the northeast, giving us between 50 and 60 million doses of UK-made vaccine subject to the right approvals from the MHRA.
值得注意的是，在迄今未获全球任何国家主管机关批准的前提下，诺瓦瓦克斯靠着后期阶段漂亮的实验数据，5月初已正式取得 COVAX 候选疫苗资格，将致力兑现替全球提供11亿剂疫苗的承诺。5月中，印尼卫生部也正式将其列入政府疫苗接种计划，等同于替该疫苗安全性挂保证。诺瓦瓦克斯深知，自己既然错失了最早切入市场的先机，干脆着手扩大3期临床试验，包括12到17岁的青少年，这将有助于该公司未来争取更多未接种疫苗人口。
Of course, we have to vaccinate and protect everyone in our country, but we also have to realize that it is a global pandemic. And if we don't take care of the global pandemic, then the continued pandemic anywhere in the world could threaten a resurgence of the pandemic everywhere in the world.
这正是为什么紧接辉瑞之后，莫德纳6月1号也向美 FDA 申请完全批准，让他们的疫苗得以合法使用于18岁以上人群。因为一旦结束紧急授权使用阶段，该公司将可以不必受限于只能透过中央政府签约购买，在安全性获得确认的前提下，药厂将得以直接向民间机构及消费者贩售疫苗。台湾也渴望突破限制，更有机会从多重管道取得国际疫苗。这将是后疫情时代的新常态。任何人没有疫苗，就无法真正平安。
接着我们来看跟疫情有关的几个重要的讯息。美国的北卡大学助理教授朱福 Sisy 他特别投诉《纽约时报》提出了一个观点，他认为英美这些国家以为自己掌握了疫苗，可以因此免于疫情，这是错的。当印度发现这个新的变种病毒比之前的英国变种更具容易的传播力、更高的传染性的时刻，它会使得没有施打疫苗的国家，被他点名的国家包括了台湾跟越南，这些国家因为都还没有施打足够的疫苗，老百姓并没有足够的免疫力，会再导致反扑回去到欧洲或是美国或是英国，甚至有在第2波的导致全世界数百万人的死亡。这是一个可怕的群体免疫形势的结束。所以欧美自己想象的免疫形势是一个想象中的结束，除非全世界各国都可以拥有足够的免疫力。其次是BNT 辉瑞疫苗之后，莫德纳成为另外一家向美国 FDA 申请完全批准新冠疫苗用于18岁以上人群的制药公司。这个意思是什么？意思就是说，它可以直接提供给消费者，不需要政府采购。这是《纽约时报》的报道。接着，全球210个国家目前接种超过21亿剂的新冠疫苗，只有6个国家没有开启接种计划。这6个国家分别是朝鲜、海地、非洲的几个国家，像坦桑尼亚等等。而在欧洲的几个国家里头，至少10个人就有4个人打过1剂疫苗。而现在有个地方是历史性的干旱，那个是美国西部的加州。加州面临40年来最大的干旱，而这也使得全球有30%的很多高温死亡都跟气候变暖有关系，也造成了全球的粮价上涨到10年来的高点。
曾经，加州阳光可以治疗人们的忧伤。然而，在气候变迁的威胁下，刺眼的阳光却让人害怕。
You can see it in the hills behind me. We're standing over Dublin, and as you look east, you can see those hills behind me that are normally green. They're already turning brown. The latest U.S. drought monitor that was just released this morning shows just how serious a problem we are facing as Californians.
It is already the 3rd driest year on record. It's getting worse. Here's some perspective for you. On the left there is what our drought outlook was 1 year ago, and then on the right is today's outlook. You can see a lot more deeper red there, and the deeper the red, the more severe the drought.
2020年才刚经历过剧烈野火的摧残，加州旋即又陷入了另一场野火危机。 全州有97.5%正处于不同阶段的干旱。
Look at the red color on my map, and that's the extreme drought that's now grown over the North Bay, East Bay Peninsula, and for most of the South Bay. So what does this mean? Well, increased fire danger, and when fires start, a higher burn intensity because of how dry it is. Crop damage, also trees starting to become stressed, and of course, this will mean pasture loss and river flow decreases.
It's really worrisome.
It's kind of depressing because we always come every weekend and to see this, like where the water usually is and then where it is now.
这里是加州北部的索诺玛，是知名的葡萄酒产区，而索诺玛湖正是滋养土地的主要水源。但截至2021年5月，索诺玛的降雨量仅为历史平均的39%，索诺玛湖的蓄水量来到了历史最低水平，比2017年史上最高时下降了30多米。
In fact, this may go down as the driest year in recorded history in California. And what's happening, we're seeing the impacts of climate change.
而气象专家早已从拉森峰的积雪量预知到这个结果。
Today, near Lake Tahoe, we talked about that snowpack report. It's just 61% of the historical average for this date. This would be back-to-back dry years, and that's not good news.
拉森峰测站位于8300英尺处，有全加州最深的积雪亮度。然而，自2020年12月以来，高海拔地区的降雨跟积雪量逐月数据都低于平均值，而全加州有30%的用水量都仰赖这里的高山雪水。
Where we're 54% of average. In fact, 8 of the last 12 seasons we've been below average for our Sierra snowpack. In fact, you have the devastating drought that started in 2012. You have 2 great years in 2017 and 19, but 3 of the last 4 years have been very poor. In fact, if you were in space right now looking down, this is what the Sierra snowpack would look like. This is a satellite image from Tuesday, and you get the impression there's not a whole lot here. The projections are in a warmer world, our snow levels would rise as winter temperatures warm by 2 degrees. This would create less snow and more rain over the mountains, and the snow we receive would melt earlier. This would also affect our fire season, making it longer and more devastating. The projection is we would get fewer storms, so our vegetation would remain dry, leading to more dry fuels in the spring, summer, and fall.
加州州长纽森5月10号宣布，加州39个郡进入干旱紧急状态，加上4月21号进入干旱紧急状态的门多西诺和索诺玛2个郡，全加州58个郡中已经有41个处于干旱紧急状态，影响加州30%的人口。
Jeff, we all lived through this together, the 2012 to 2016 drought. Could we see that type of drought again in these next several months?
Well, there is the possibility we could always head back into a multi-year drought. I mean, you really do need to look at it year by year. We have started to slide back into a drought. I think once we hit the summer, most of the Bay Area could be covered in a severe drought. So this is definitely going to mean water restrictions are likely going to be coming back as we head through the next 6 months.
加州是美国农业最发达的州，葡萄酒产业更是当地重要的经济产业之一。2012至2016年的持续性干旱，给加州农业带来了约27亿美元的损失，葡萄酒业也面临沉重的打击。
So normally we would have given them a little bit of water, just kind of get them up to stake, kind of wake them up from the winter time. This year we've not done any water.
麦可一家从60年代就在加州纳帕经营葡萄酒生意。2020年的山火以及新冠疫情，让酒厂减少了40%的收入。没想到现在又面临干旱的考验。
Water is a huge concern, and that's really what we're facing right now. We're at about 40% of the average rainfall for the year. You can see from the vineyard right now, the vines themselves are very green, but all the vegetation on the vineyard floor, which normally would be green, is all dying now.
尽管葡萄是一种相对耐旱的植物，然而过度曝晒仍会令葡萄颗粒枯萎减产。2020年，加州山火使整个加州的酿酒葡萄产量下降了13%，而纳帕县的葡萄酒产量更下降了近40%。随着旱情加剧，加州政府也提前在5月发布了山火红旗警告，较往年提前了4个月。因为根据加州消防局公布的数据，从2021年1月1号到5月7号，加州已经发生了1787起山火，是近5年同期平均数的约2倍以上。
We've already seen fires from 17, 18, 19, and 2020. Without enough water and not enough vegetation on the hills, we're just at the mercy of the environment.
无论是农业还是畜牧，作物养殖都离不开水，而干旱缺水是加州历史上长期存在的问题。为了满足需要，加州农民也会抽取地下水，但这却加速了水资源流失。
This is water that percolates through the ground when we get big rainstorms or from engineered storage ponds. It's stored there and then pumped to the surface when needed. But just like above-ground reservoirs, there's a supply limit. It's an issue Michelle Sneed, a leading hydrologist with the United States Geological Survey, sees as a growing concern. She's lowering this tape measure until she reaches water. So that has not reached water yet?
No, it's like 145 feet. It's like 350 feet or so. Yeah. And we're not in a drought. I was measuring water levels that were 630 feet below land surface.
When water drops that low, look at what happens. This was where the surface level was in 1988. By 2016, it had sunk or subsided by over 6 feet.
It's kind of like a sponge. As you dry out a sponge, it gets a little bit thinner. So that's what's happening underneath our feet.
Here in California, we believe in what if. After all, if is our middle name.
如果加州人知道旱情会持续这么久，如果加州人知道自己会成为气候变迁的见证者与受害者，如果加州人知道很多事情没有如果，或许就能更好地应对天灾，减少人祸对土地的危害。